I'll second. Right. Need to elect a chair.
Right. So first order of business is we need to self-appoint a chair. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Lindsay Zelting to be the acting chairperson for tonight's meeting.
Do we have a second? Thanks, Zach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We will call this meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business is adopting the meeting minutes from our previous meeting. However, we only have 2 members that are present from our last meeting, so we're just going to let those go
Next time.
until next time if Evie's here.
Okay.
Roll call.
Anything else?
Roll call.
Oh, thank you, Angie. Roll call,
Okay, you want me to do that or you want me to go
please.
ahead? Okay, Zachary Kahide,
Here.
You need to speak.
make sure your microphones are working.
Here.
Okay. Stevie Minor,
Here.
Lindsay Zefton,
Present.
Tamara Di Martino.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Say Evie is.
Oh, yeah, Evie is absent today, so
Okay.
just so you know, yeah.
All right. So we've got 4 out of 5. Better than we've been. Making progress. Thank you, guys. All right. First order of business. We have PLZBA 2024-0045, 30756 Avenue. The applicant, David Downer, is proposing or is requesting a use variance for 14 apartments for use as a homeless shelter for women. Do we have the applicant here? Thank you. You want to come tell us about your project? And we'll ask questions.
So. Good evening, everyone. Maybe everyone back there. So I'm here on behalf of, the property 3075 LS, I'm sorry, 3075 6th Ave. But I also have someone here who's gonna come up in a second, Demetria, who, the reason we're applying for the use variance, we're actually applying to have an additional use.
Real quick, make sure you speak into the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
We
Is that
hear
better?
you, But just
Yes,
so
let me-
everyone
let me do
online
this.
can.
Let me do this. So we don't have to. Seem that's 30. Is that better?
Yes, sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
No, fine, that's fine. So we're actually looking to apply for an additional use. So we actually stood here before and got the approval for the 14 units that we were doing because we want to do it as an affordable housing project. Along the way, we met Demetria, who has a plan, and actually, I'm just gonna have her come up. You wanna just come up? So she has a plan that she wants to create. It's called Live Limitless Shelter. She's looking to get the business started. So when we were approached with the idea, she needed a space to actually have to fit up that would suit her needs. So being a new start business, it was like, obviously you have hindrances, construction costs, things of that nature. So when we saw the plan and we learned more about what it was going to be, we figured, okay, this is actually it still serves the same needs as it would as a affordable housing, like just the concept of providing affordable housing within that community. But we also had the benefit of someone who's local from the area, right? Local business owner starting her business. So it eliminates some of the prohibitive costs for her to get started and hopefully to get her feet on the ground. It will present a good opportunity, just kind of a very easy thing that's beneficial to the community of North Central. So we're actually applying to see if we can have an additional use in the sense that when Demetria is on her feet and her business is soaring and everything that it's gonna do in the near future, we can, have the use of the building, whether it goes back to being a 14 unit or whatever it was that we originally planned on. So that's what we're actually asking for. I'm gonna turn over. And one other quick note is the way Demetria wants to fit the building up, it actually fits perfectly. No, I'm sorry, the way she wants to fit it up fits perfectly into how we were already designing the building. So, you know, in the near future, when her business is successful and growing, or whatever happens, maybe she stays there forever, and that would be great too. But let's say, you know, something happens in the future and she's growing and she needs another location or something like that. It actually would require very minimal fit up to go back to what it would need to be provide housing. So that's what we're asking for. I'm gonna actually turn the mic over to Demetria so that she can actually explain a little bit more about what the shelter is, what Live Limitless is, so you guys can understand and see why I'm saying it would actually fit really well into that same space.
Hello. Hello, everyone back there. My name is Demetria Canty, and I am a lifer for Troy. I was born and raised in Troy. My family's from Troy. And part of the reason why I wanted to do a homeless shelter for women is because I want to give back to the community. I feel like it's really important, and I want to serve women. I have a passion for women, and I want to see them off the streets and being somewhere safe and sound. Live Limitless is not just going to be a shelter. It's going to be more than that. We plan to provide wraparound services. We plan to give them case management. We plan to provide, empowerment women sessions so that we can help them grow into being successful individuals when they leave. The concept for Live Limitless is we're going to take it from the outside in. We know a lot of people, when you're coming off the street, you're really going through a lot. And for me, in the concept that I want to do is that we want to build women from the outside in. So we want to make sure that we're loving on them. We're making them feel like they are important, because they are. So I've met with a lot of people so far that are willing to partner. I have a lot of letters of support with me today. I've met with the commissioner from the Department of Social Services on yesterday. I do have that letter of intent. I'm already in this. I'm already a 501c. I have everything that I need to do this project. I have my partner here who's also going to be helping me build this up from the ground up. Everyone that I speak to about this project is excited. I have CEO, I have a letter from them. I have EOC. I have several partners, like I said, Hudson Valley. Everyone's on board, because when I pitch this and when I show them the website and they look at it, they fall in love with the concept because it's well needed. I met with Amy LaFountain on day before yesterday, because we're going to partner to provide Code Blue, because that's something that's about to happen in the city. As you all know, when it gets cold, these people have to come off the streets and shelters are mandated. So I have already partnered with Amy. We've already discussed the plan, how we want to move forward with that. I'll help her, she'll help me. I'm looking to meet with Tracy Pitcher. We keep missing each other for her schedule, but that's another shelter that I'm looking to partner with. So it's very exciting, like I said, and I think Troy would be good for it, because as we know, it's a very difficult time out there for the homeless people. And I want to do my part, especially for the women. That's what it would be, a singles women's shelter. So I'm open to questions. I hope that you all let us do the variance and let us move in there, because like I said, a lot of people are ready to see this happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for doing this work. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Couple of clarifying questions. You mentioned some names, but I
Yes.
may not be in the rest of the board.
Yeah, sure.
What organizations are they affiliated with that you were?
So I
talking
have,
to?
yep, I have the Department of Social Services. So I have Michael McMahon. That's the big ticket there, because I do need DSS to be on board, and I have the letter here if you want to take it and look at that. I have that.
Yeah, well, if we can just get a copy.
Yeah,
of
sure,
this, so
sure,
that-
sure. I have a business owner, Ron Gardner from GBS. He's on board as well. CEO, Sue Rosa, she provided me her letter. She wants to see it happen as well. EOC, Michael Landau, I did a tour with them for them to do the wraparound services. They're also gonna provide me with an intern from their culinary department so that we can do the food service, because they're trying to do something new there themselves. And when I let them know that I'm gonna be providing meals, they were so excited about it. And I was like, hey, do you have an intern? He's like, I love that idea. I would love to partner with you. Let's make it happen. I do have that letter here for him saying that. Albany County Drug Court is on board. I did let them know that I don't really want to get heavy into the really hard drugs because that's going to be a challenge and I don't want to do that, but I will. And they were like, well, you know what? Right now we have women that are just DWI. We don't even have women that are really, so that is a plug also, that I would be able to assist with that. And I do have that letter here. And I also have a letter from the pastor from Fifth Avenue. Some of you may know him, Pastor Victor Patterson. He's showing his support as the pastor. Rhonda Major, who is a professional for Progressive Insurance. She's behind me. And then I also have Hudson Valley Community College, who is in support of me as well. And I have that as well. Actually, Hudson Valley called me about a month ago when I pitched the project to them because I would like to see if they were willing to do some of the wraparound services for the project. And I wasn't quite sure where this was going to go. And I let them know that I still needed to meet with you all and so on and so forth. But true story, they called me and they were like, Demetria, is your shelter open yet? And I said, no, why? What's going on? They said, our security guard just found, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional because this is my baby. The security guard found a young lady sleeping in her car for 9 months and she's going to college and she's sleeping in her car. So that's just one of many stories. And that's why I want to do my part, because I feel like this is such a need. Women are struggling, women are homeless. And if I can just do a small part to help them get off the street, that's what I want to do. So those are the partners and many are growing. I also have Allie B's restaurant in Albany. She would like to be my food service provider. So I have done a lot of work. I have done a lot of footwork to connect with people to make sure that this is not going to be something that doesn't succeed. I have a lot of backing and I just would like for the city of Troy to give me the opportunity to get in this building so that I can get get women off the street.
Couple of follow-up questions. Are you catering specifically to single women? Are you allowing women and children? Just trying to get an idea of.
So for right now, it's only going to be for single women because right now, as you know, children are a liability. Not that I don't love children, but being new and trying to get this going, I just want to take on what I feel I can handle right now. But down the road, we would try to do children and families as we grow and get bigger. But initially, it's just going to be for single women.
What is the setup of the building? Like, are these going to be like studio apartments? Like, how is this going to be configured? How many spaces, how many people is the building going to be able to accommodate at any
Is
one
that the
time?
Zoom? Is this the Zoom camera right here?
Yes, that is.
I wanted to see, no, it's gonna be two. So we have, we brought the original floor plan that we brought when we were presenting the first
Mhm.
time. So they're set up as studio apartments, yes.
Okay.
But so you have your main corridor, actually, and I can just hand it to you if you
I
want to
just,
see
a
it.
general description. is
Yeah, so
fine.
it's just set up that there's 3 floors, there's a walk-in, there's 3 full floors of usable space. You have your basement, first floor, and your second floor. Each one had an apartment on it. There was, some area for flex space and things like that that she may turn into, but the main walls are actually gonna stay the same. So the way I was describing it, where I was saying you had the original units that were there, the fit up that the reason it works so well, the reason it presents such a good opportunity for Demetria is that the size of the units would actually work well for someone who's, coming off of a shelter in that same way. So, or coming off the street for a shelter, I should say. So it would actually, the layout is the same 14, and then she will have whatever space she needs in there to be able to do what she has to do. So, yes, sir.
Little clarification. You said the original building has 3 floors, basement, floor 1, floor 2.
Correct. Yes.
And you said each floor has 1 apartment?
No. Each floor has usable space, so it's a split. There's 6, and 2. So the second floor has 6, first floor has 6, basement has 2.
So you have 14 units, all individual studios.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay. And so that would be basically your maximum capacity you're expecting in the shelter would be 14 women at any one time?
So I plan to double up, so it will be 2 persons to each room so that I can get more people and house more women. So it will be between the 18 and 20 mark to get more people in. So it would be a little bit more than 14.
Do you plan on having someone at the site, like living
Oh.
in one of the apartments on site that's staffed?
So the plan is to have it staffed 24/7 so that someone's always there in 3 shifts. So after deciding what you all are gonna do, I'm already ready to get my staff and my board on board to get us going, to get that started. So yes, the plan is to have them 24/7.
Other questions?
Yeah, a couple. Is
Yes.
access, the ability to go in and out of the building, is that monitored, policed, patrolled, controlled?
So
Or is it
it's,
just open?
so no, it wouldn't be open. It would be a secured building. With the help of Mr. Downer here, we would have it secured so that you would have to get buzzed in and out. We do plan to have a security as well so that they would be able to police, just to make sure that everything is safe. And yeah, it's gonna be secure. You wouldn't be able just to walk in off the street to come in. It would be, you get buzzed in. We're gonna have cameras throughout the building, outside the parameter, so that we can monitor. Yeah.
Last question I have is funding. How does it work? Who's paying for this?
So DSS is going to be a large bulk of that. And then I have some grants that are going to be pending, of course, because we're trying to get those through. And then I have ESG funds that are going to be available. And we're trying to get CDBG because I feel like, I know they say that it's for shelter, but because we're providing the wraparound services, we are eligible for some of those funds. So we will be looking to tap into some of that as well.
What kind of reception are you getting from the neighbors?
That's what I was just gonna ask.
I personally have not spoken to anybody from the neighborhood, so maybe Mr. Downer.
So the feedback that I got when we went, going back a couple years when the building was originally used as a shelter, one of the concerns, because there's a school right there. So one of the main concerns was, what would it be like if, and they assumed that we were making it a shelter, like ourselves, we're gonna make a shelter. We told them no, because that's just not our line of work. That's not our
Right.
industry. Their only concern was just, who was in the shelter, like what population were you serving with the shelter, being that it's right next to a school, and what the kind of the same questions you asked, the accessibility and everything would be. Being that we're not doing that, or I'm sorry, that Demetria is not provide, like Live Limitless is not doing it specifically for a women's shelter. We haven't gotten any pushback from it, and nobody's come to me to say anything new. The folks at the school have my direct number. I have contacts with some of the people there. Haven't heard anything else about it. A lot of them
They're
are actually
aware of
decided.
it.
They are aware. Yeah, as far as I know, the same people that have been in communication are aware of it. Yeah.
So sorry, Angie, there was a notice typically with a use variance or other variance, neighbors are notified that they're
Yes.
coming in front of the board. Was
Yes.
that sent out?
That was sent out, but usually depends on if those at the school are the property owners. The mail goes to the property owners,
Right,
Yeah,
Not to
yeah.
the tenants.
not the tenants.
right. It would go to the property owner.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
more
so they are
particularly
aware,
wanted to make
yes.
sure that the school was notified and
Yeah,
had the
yeah,
ability to
yeah.
comment in front of us
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, we send notices out to the property owners. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions from the board?
No feedback to the letters?
No,
Okay.
I had just a question. So you said you got a variance already here once. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it was already a shelter, so what was the variance? Okay, give me just the backstory.
No, go ahead. You finish. Yeah, finish your question. Is it just the back?
What's the backstory of the building and
Okay.
its history, just for my own?
Yeah, so it was originally, the last that I knew of it was used, it was owned by a part of St. Patrick's Church. It was part of the complex with that, which the school used to be. There's an actual church that was to the next side of it. And then I think a rectory that became
Okay.
apartments later. So this particular building, it was always used right up until I believe 2019 or so for the church was using it. I don't know for what uses. I was just told, that it was used for various things. And then when you got into 2020, they needed I believe somebody was using it because they needed a code blue shelter. So they used it briefly for that.
Okay.
But yeah, for 2 years.
So the church was using it as. a
So
local
the
shelter.
church always had it. They always had the use of it. So the reason we came before, because obviously being a church, they have different guidelines, different, maybe they're considered a 501. But to come and use it, we had to obviously apply for it because in the system from years ago, it was still classified as a 2-family house.
Okay.
A 2-family house, yeah. So we obviously had to come before and say, all right, we're going to use it and propose that we want to actually do some housing here. So that's when we went and started, talking to people, like I said, the school, and just people in the surrounding area. So a lot of people were excited to see that building become something other than just, it was, at one point, it was just not being used at all for a couple of years.
What's the
So-
square footage of the building if it was a
It's-
two-family house originally?
It's actually a commercial. That's what's odd about it. It was zoned in that area as a 2-family house. It's
Oh.
like a 10,000 square foot commercial
Okay.
building. Yeah,
So
it's
only
yeah.
space.
Yeah, so there was no way it was gonna be used as a 2-family. So we laid it out, came up with the design. The architect obviously came with, finalizing that. We stood before, asked for the 14-unit variance or the use variance to make it a 14-unit. And then, like I said, along the way, as we were going, met Demetria, do some common, common people that we knew. And that's when she told me about the idea. We looked at it, and as she was describing it more and more and more, it was like, kind of makes sense. Maybe you can use this space. And it would, so one of the things that it provided that was a big hindrance that we didn't really touch on yet. If you think about what construction costs now, so I'm the owner of Shades Contractor. We do like large commercial and large residential. We're actually working on the Taylor Apartments right now. We're one of the subcontractors on there. So I'm very familiar with like construction costs. So if you factor what it would take for Demetria to go and try to like get a property on her own as a new business, it'd be very difficult to do that. So when the idea came up and it was presented and said, hey, maybe I can use a space, it fits the actual existing layout that we already had designed would work. That's when the opportunity said, all right, well, maybe we should just go. And obviously now it brings us to stand before you and say, can we get an additional use for her to be able to put her business in there?
So just a point of, sorry, Stephen,
No,
one
it's
real
all right.
quick on this point. You have received the use variance because it's in a 2-family zone. You've received the use variance for multifamily, which allows your 14 units.
Yes.
You're coming in front of us for a different use variance to allow this to be a shelter. If the shelter occupies the building for basically a year, it becomes a shelter use. So if you wanted to convert it back to multifamily, you would have to go through this zoning process again, is my understanding. Rick, Angie, confirm. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Your building would be set up for that at that point. But I wanted to make sure you're aware that you would have to go through this process again to then change to another use back to another use that's not allowed within that zone.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So there's only-
All
all
right.
right. Yes, Stephen.
Capital improvements. Are you ready to go in terms of capital improvements? Or is that still on the drawing board?
No, so the building is actually already, 2 of the 3 floors are drywalled and we're almost mudded on both of those floors. So we're actually just still moving. So there's already funding in place. So we're just gonna do it where we would do in a lot of like
Yeah.
real estate transactions. We're still gonna cover that and just continue getting the building. So it's actually not like, again, that was another reason where it was like helpful for her to get started because it was
But
like already
code
in
has
place.
to come and inspect it before you can put it into use, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they'll do their occupancy inspection. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but nothing is gonna, so the way the building is set up, are you asking just from the structure of it or what's?
No, my question is capital improvements, plumbing,
Mhm.
heating, drywall, ceilings, HVAC, whatever.
Mhm.
Is that completed or is that still to go?
No, it's still to go. It's about 80%. There's an open permit that's active. They've got all the progress inspections are passed and they're moving forward. So
Okay,
yeah, it's pretty close to being complete.
thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak to a little bit about the building, because I just felt like it needed to be said. The building has always operated in such like a shelter type of space. Years ago, it was a halfway house for men. I don't know if you all remember that, but like 15, 20 years ago, it was a halfway house for men. And when I met with Amy LaFountain, she wanted me to press that they used it for 2 years in a row for Code Blue. So it's always been as such a place to take people off the street and get them what they needed. So I just wanted to share a little bit, piggyback off of what David just shared. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Zach, questions?
Yeah, I had one question. So you mentioned that the school knew that you were making it into apartments. Do they know that you're looking at making a shelter now specifically, or they're just aware that it would be apartments?
I'm not sure who I can't say who all at the school knows what, because I don't have the access to obviously. KIP's the charter school. They have
Yeah.
multiple locations. So the head of that, I don't know. But as far as I know, they're aware of us moving forward. They
With
got
a-
the
with a
same
sh-
postings.
With a
and-
shelter.
Yeah, like I said, but I haven't gotten any negative feedback, even if with that. So
Any other questions from the board?
No,
I just have one point
Go ahead, Rick.
to clarify. You mentioned additional use several times, and I think Lindsay said that, if that use is not, I guess my first question is, will it be exclusively a women's shelter when it's operated as a women's shelter? There won't be affordable housing on one of the floors or anything like that?
no, it'll be exclusively a women's shelter.
Okay, and. Right, so
use,
the
as I
the
should say.
use, I guess, the affordable housing use, if it's not. If it's not used for a year in that, I think that expires.
Yeah,
That's
if
my
it's not
understanding.
used for a year in that capacity that you were approved for, then basically that use variance expires. So you would just have to come back. And again, if you want to make that transition back, you would just have to get that variance again.
Is that understood?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. No other questions?
no,
Okay. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to make a comment regarding this project? Or proposal? For, against, either? Anyone virtually that would like to make a comment to the board regarding the project? Can unmute or raise your hand?
No, nobody.
Going once, going
Nobody.
twice. All right. Any discussion or questions amongst the board?
I have none at this time.
Done?
Nope.
Okay. Anyone would like to make a motion?
I would make a motion, and I'm not sure about the technical wording, but the motion would be to approve their request for that variance.
Would you like me to make this motion?
I would love for you to make that motion.
All right, I will make a motion that we approve the use variance for a homeless shelter for women at this location or at this property. The application that's in front of us, that this is a reasonable use of the property. There's historic use of this property as a shelter. This property has uniquely positioned to provide this use. It does not essentially alter the character of the neighborhood, as well as the occupant of the shelter has financial hardship given the nature of the shelter. So this building is really a great location for you. So with that, do we self-created? Not self-created. You want that specific wording?
No self-created hardship.
No self-created hardship. And with that, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Thank
luck.
you. You
Good
just
luck.
made my
Thank you.
dream come true. I really am about to
Mhm.
cry. Thank you so much.
You said you wanted copies of the letter. Do you want copies of anything we had here? Just for your own?
Yeah, if
for
you
records, or-
get a chance to scan them, or if
Okay.
those
Just
are
email them to
copies and you
Angelina.
can send them to Andy, just
Yeah.
so we have them on
I can
record,
do
that would
that.
be great.
Yep, we'll
Okay.
have them in the morning. Thank you so much.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. The cheat sheet I pulled up is not as good as Evie's, and I lost it in all my paperwork.
I didn't bring it.
I know. If you find Evie's cheat sheet in your stack of organized papers there, I can handle the next one too.
I may have that someplace.
All right, next item on the agenda.
They didn't do secret, they didn't do secret already. unlisted.
We all set?
Yeah. This is unlisted, so I don't think Seeker was done.
And Evie's not here. Oh,
Well,
do we have
yeah.
specific phrasing? I know Evie like reads something that like is the,
That's why I kicked it to you, Lindsay.
I just did the motion. At the unlisted, it's like, wait, why would it
I
be
think you
unlisted?
usually have- Because it's a use variance.
We need to go through seeker?
Use variances are usually, yeah, unlisted.
Okay,
Every-
sorry, we're gonna go
Oh,
back
okay.
to the last agenda
No
item.
worries.
Give us a minute.
What's his name?
Hey, guys, can you
David?
come back here. We're not done with you. You got your variance. You can stick around. This is procedural. We have to go through seeker. Seeker form was submitted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember reviewing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we've seen the seeker form. It was submitted in the materials. I don't know if you can pull it up so everyone else can see it. But there was no, nothing to indicate, no significant impact.
No environmental issue.
No, yeah, nothing listed that would trigger significant impact. So I will make a motion that we proceed with a negative declaration on the seeker form. Do I have a second?
I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, you guys are good. You're done now. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're good. Don't trigger me on these things beforehand. I will get the hang of it, I promise. Okay, sorry. Now, come on up. We're on to PLZBA 2024. Oh, I've got it on the staff list. You're
Okay.
good. 2024-0037, 375 to 81 Vandenberg Avenue.
Wonderful.
Um,
I can, yeah, sure.
This is seeker type 2, a area variance. The applicant, Ben Gingrich, on behalf of Key Bank, is proposing a new freestanding bank branch adjacent to the Market 32 in Troy. Their following variances are requested. A front setback variance of 114.6 feet. A side setback variance of 160 feet. A variance of, or relief of 1 story in the zone 2 stories, minimum of 2 stories is allowed. This is a proposed 1 story. And the relief so that the building can face south instead of towards the streets. Please tell us about the proposal.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Gingrich again. I'm with HSB Architects representing KeyBank this evening. So KeyBank is proposing a brand new bank branch here out in front of Market 32, as you mentioned. We're adjacent to a Wendy's outlot, which is very similar setbacks. Very similar setbacks to what we are proposing.
Do we have another mic?
It's not working. Maybe turn it off and you turn, yeah.
Hello? Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Did I just take that one?
Say that again.
Yeah, that one's not working. You see, kid.
So I don't know.
I'll just stand here.
Yeah.
That's
All
fine.
right, it's old school. I like it. All right, so we are proposing a brand new bank branch out in front of Market 32. If you go to the next slide, I can show you what we're proposing. So brand new ground up KeyBank branch. It's neighborhood 3 district, which was recently rezoned. And in the new zoning, it requires this 10-foot setback off the front property line. We felt that that doesn't really comply with the current look and feel of the neighborhood, and that our use, more accurately complies with the look of the neighborhood. We're meeting a similar setback to what Wendy's has. Additionally, there's a really steep hill out in front. You'll see out in front, so it'd be practically infeasible to get much closer to the street. So we're right there in line essentially with the Wendy's. And we tried to get as close to the south as we could to try to address the main entrance to the parking lot. So we chose to face the building. This is the old deck. We chose to face the building south. If you go to the next slide, the zoomed in site plan does have yeah, there we go. We chose to face the building south because that really faced the entrance to the shopping center the best. Again, we're down the hill, so to face the street didn't make a lot of sense because we're a good 20 feet down the hill to this parking lot here. So facing the building south made the most sense to us because we'd have great access to the pedestrian and vehicular traffic coming into the shopping center and good sight lines to both the street and to that Market 32. We saw that as a really prominent intersection and we felt that really addressed it there. We also made a number of changes to comply to other things, so they weren't variances. We made the building exactly 20 feet so that we wouldn't be below the minimum. And this district also says that it requires 2 stories. We didn't want to do 2 stories. That's not the nature of the neighborhood. So with that, we're requesting those 3 variances. We feel that this complies pretty well with the area.
Okay. So you're representing KeyBank, correct?
Yes.
So is KeyBank under contract with the owner, company that facilitates the property?
We have a signed authorization that we provided to Angelina,
Okay.
and they have a lease, I believe.
Oh, can you go back to some of those renderings, Angie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can flip through some of these. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to talk about the different views. So it's very bright on screen. It's not really that bright. So the bank branch itself, we made 20 feet. And then we still have some elements here, like some of these sunshades and canopies, to give it a little bit more of a pedestrian feel. This is the side that faces the street. So it's not like the back is to the street. It's very much facing the street. If we scroll down a little more, you can see, let's go to the front. This is the south entrance. So the south entrance has this big portal element with a lot of glass so that we can really kind of be inviting to our customers. You'll see the drive-through canopy on the left. The drive-through canopy does face back into the shopping center towards Market 32. And then a couple of views will give you an idea of how we're positioned on the site if we go to the renderings. Okay, so the first view there from the southeast, that's coming in the driveway. Jeez. That's coming in the driveway. So you can see our, how we're kind of positioning ourselves for our customers who are coming into the Market 32 complex. That view's looking kind of back towards Wendy's. And you can kind of see how we're positioned right in line with the Wendy's. And you can see uphill towards the street there. Couple more here. These are more so just, this is in the parking lot looking at us in comparison to the Wendy's. Then the background, the Wendy's is just a grayed out box you can see. And then this is just looking into the site. And then the last page were views from the street. We wanted to show KeyBank and the community, I'm sure, is concerned about sight lines to the bank. So I wanted to ensure that we still had really good sight lines. We're addressing the street frontage so that it's visible as we're driving by. So that's the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
So we got 3, we got the setback, the 1 story instead of 2 story, what's the third one?
There's 2 setbacks. So there's
2
a setback on the
setbacks,
side
side
yard.
2 setbacks and then the height.
That's
The
correct.
stories.
And I'm sorry, there's the 4th that says the street frontage It says it's supposed to directly face the street and we're facing the south. So. That's all correct, right, Angelina?
Yeah.
So make sure.
4 items.
4.
When this project was initially put on the table and the thought and planning was incorporated into it, why didn't the firm or Key Bank think about that second floor?
It would make the project
Even if it
infeasible.
was a false floor, just the facade.
We thought about it.
To
We
look-
looked around and saw that there's no other 2-story buildings in the neighborhood. No other commercial 2-story buildings. There's a bank to our north, and it's 1 story. Market 32 is 1 story, and so is Wendy's. So for Key Bank, that would make the project. Sorry. For Key Bank, that would make the project less feasible, let's say. They're not out to build fake stories. And we did go through, we had many more items on the list that we worked really closely with planning to make sure we could modify the building to comply with. So there was, I think at one point there was 9 or 10 items. I don't remember exactly, Angelina. We went through those items and tried to modify as much as we could to comply with the code. So we really made a good faith effort to comply with the code as much as we could.
Yeah, I mean, I think because this isn't being subdivided, correct? Like this is part
No.
of the larger parcel.
That's correct. It's
Um,
not subdivided.
In reviewing this application, the front setback makes absolute sense. Literally have topographic challenge to impact that. The side setback, I think, also makes sense. The facing kind of interior to the plaza absolutely makes sense. My one concern is with the relief of one story. Not that it doesn't fit the current context. It absolutely fits the current context and, the building that's being proposed. However, us granting this variance allows it to run with the site. So any other future development on this 20-acre site, I think it is, would have that variance.
Okay.
So that's our concern my concern without this being subdivided and granted.
Is there a way to write into this variance some limiting nature that it's for this specific bank use?
With that, I'm going to turn that same very question over to Rick.
Okay.
Well, one way would be to subdivide it and have a separate parcel, but that doesn't seem like it would be feasible.
That's not part of the lease that they're working through right now
Right.
with the property.
This is Stacy Fleischman from KeyBank, if I can interject as well. So the landlord does not want to subdivide. In addition, the landlord has a lease amendment with Market 32 that prohibits our building from being any more than 20 feet. So I'm not sure how to take that. I'm not sure if that's negotiable between the landlord and his other tenant, but that's the stipulation with their lease agreement right now. We cannot be any more than 20 feet.
Because they don't want the view of Market 32 to be blocked from.
To be blocked.
That's correct.
Correct.
We were out there just
Exactly.
taking photos today to see what sight lines of their building frontage will be.
So then, correct me if I'm wrong. By approving the variance request for the 2-story waiver and granting it for the 1, if there's no subdivision, that carries forward for any other building, any other projects on that entire parcel.
To tell you the truth, I don't know that for certain. I mean, we're so used to dealing with one structure
Correct.
on a piece of land. And I haven't come across this situation before. I'm not 100%, I mean, that's a fair implication, but I mean, you're also, you're granting the variance to this building on this plot of land
That would
And-
carry forward to anybody else.
or not. That's what I'm just saying. Okay, I haven't dealt with this before because in fact, this is a shopping plaza in a sense, and we don't have a separate zoning provision for, it's not a PD or anything like that. So, in a way, the entire code is a little incongruous in
Okay.
applying it here.
So,
Could I interject?
Yeah.
On that point? I'm representing Key Bank, of course, not the shopping plaza, but if I look at the overall site plan of the shopping plaza, I don't know that two-story makes sense at all for this.
I'm not
area
saying it
or
does.
use. So to grant it and have it be carried forward with the shopping plaza, I don't know is necessarily a bad thing.
Well,
I'm thinking through like a complete overhaul of the site.
Uh-huh.
But to that end, if the site were to be completely overhauled and redeveloped as, say, a mixed use, it's unlikely that they would want a one-story
Yeah.
anyway. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with what you're saying, Rick.
Okay.
We try to stipulate that
That's
this
what I
variance
would- I
applies
would-
to this building, and we have a little bit of cover on the back.
I would
end.
like you to attempt to condition
Yes.
any grant of the area variance, at least for height, to this particular building and this particular building footprint.
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Specifically and only to them.
Yes.
Yes. This application specifically that is in front of us. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions on the board? Are there any comments from anyone in the room tonight regarding this proposal? No? Okay, come on up.
Hi, my name is Ashia Phillips and I'm a property owner in the neighborhood behind Market 32. So I just came to see exactly where the building was going to be proposed, because we certainly don't want any more development on the backside of Market 32 because we're highly congested in that area already. In terms of the two-story or one-story, obviously it should be a one-story because you're obstructing the facade of the rest of the plaza there. But I mainly came to see where it was going to be located. And then I also have, issues with the sewer and runoff, like digging. And every time something is built, it kind of disrupts the properties on the other side. People don't think about that, but for like the sewer and runoff, where is that stuff going? And will it be some digging going on for that purpose that may drain out and affect the properties that are adjacent to Market 32 is my question. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. I'm going to respond in that these zoning variances are not related to site plan, unfortunately. Can I ask the applicant a question? Are you going through site plan approval?
We will be. We don't have completed site drawings yet.
But you
We
will
were-
be going through.
We
in front
will
of the
be. We were
planning
waiting
board.
on this hearing tonight to keep pushing ahead with our full design.
Okay,
We have every intention of making sure that we comply with all stormwater and all the regs.
okay,
But yes,
all right. So your comment is best addressed by the planning board, and they will be going through site plan approval so they can address any issues there. But thank you for coming. Any other comments from those in the room? Any comments from anyone online? Regarding this proposal? Nope. Okay. All right, any other further questions or discussion by the board?
No, I don't have any more.
Nope. Really wish I had my cheat sheet. Give me a minute. Trying to find the area variance criteria, so I can hit all my talking points. Oh, do we need to do seeker?
Yes.
No, this is
No.
a type 2. Just a type 2. No, this is a type 2. If, yeah, don't do that, but if you want guys to say it doesn't, it's a type 2.
Just gonna
so that's
acknowledge
fine.
that
Yeah.
it is a-
Just acknowledge it's.
It is a type 2, and therefore we do not need to do
Oh,
seeker. Um. All right. I really need to be better about my cheat sheet. Okay. Rick, do you know what the specific criteria are?
I can get them in a second if you give me a moment.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, that'd be useful since we've got new board members anyway. Sorry, give us a second.
Oh, no
Just want to make
worries.
sure we're hitting all the right items.
Yep.
I can't find mine.
I don't. I thought I had it.
Nope, that's not it. Oh, the little cheat sheet that you put together? Well, and I will dig up my copy and I will make sure I've got them for everyone.
That would
this
help.
time.
I was gonna ask for a copy afterwards.
Um. Oh, now we gotta wait for Rick and Angie to get back anyway. Basically, Ooh, you got a fancy one. All right, I'm just gonna do a quick update for my new board members here. All right, so with an area variance, you should consider whether benefit can be achieved by other means feasible to the applicant. Whether it's an undesirable change in the neighborhood character or detrimental to nearby properties, whether the request is substantial, whether request will have adverse physical or environmental effects, and whether alleged difficulty is self-created, which is relevant, not determinative. Oh, I know these guys. You got this one.
Oh,
I'll just wait for Rick to get back before we print them
Yeah,
on, if that's
yeah.
all right. Is his office further, or is he just digging through more
yeah, he's
stuff?
fine. So I was like, yeah, I should have told him to get it, but okay, he's here.
Oh, he probably
He had
made
a couple,
copies
so,
for
yeah.
us.
Okay.
The cheat sheet. Thanks, Rick. There we go. Now I don't need to write that.
Or
Thank you.
thanks.
Yes, you can have your cheat sheet back. Got my normal one. Okay. All right, I'm gonna make an attempt at this. That hopefully satisfies all of our requirements here. I am,
Let me get the.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Huh? No, these are used.
Oh, the ones that, okay. Yeah.
Also distribute the use variance test.
So the ones-
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's very, very-
Thank you.
It's even color coded. But these are all red. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be all red.
Okay,
All green has to be. If you're passing.
I am gonna make a motion that we approve the variances in front of us. That we approve the front setback variance, the relief of 114.6 feet. Love the exactness as an engineer. That we also approve the variance of the side setback variance, relief of 160 feet. That we approve the 1-story proposed for this specific project and this building as shown. And that we also allow this building to face south as opposed to the roadway. With the understanding that the approving these variances will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood, is actually fitting within the character of the neighborhood. That these variances will not, cannot be achieved by some other feasible method because of the site and grades and the nature of the site and the grades between the site and the roadway. The requested variance is not substantial, while the numbers are large, is not substantial relative to the site. And it will not have an adverse impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the specific large property or district. And it is not self-created because it's an existing shopping plaza and the grades are there. With that, can I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you all for your time this evening.
thank you.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Okay. That was a mouthful.
Well done.
I'll get better at that. Okay, hold on one second.
So just have to close the- Yeah.
Okay.
I misspoke a minute ago, with the area variance, you don't need to
Yes,
meet every test.
The use variance is more stringent and needs to meet all of the criteria. The area variance does not.
Is this enable? I can see this. Does it say enable? Or share?
Share. Yeah, of course. You can have my pencil. I'm using my red pen anyway.
Yeah. Actually, you know what you can do? Go to David's name, and then there's like 3 dots.
Who?
The mouse.
David?
D Marin.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the 3 dots, and you should be able to just hit the share.
Yeah, it's not depend, I don't think. No, it's allowing you.
Yeah. hopefully everybody else can see it. Okay. Little bit of delay.
Okay, good. All right. So next item on the agenda is PLZBA 2024-0022, 125 River Street. This is Taylor 2, proposed 2 mixed-use buildings consisting of 308 residential units and just over 2,000 square feet of ground floor retail space. 2 6-story buildings on top of a 1-story parking structure. The variances in front of us tonight are a front setback variance. Front setback within this zone is a 10-foot max, so a relief of 11.5 and 13.2 feet are proposed for buildings 2 and 3 respectively. So relief of 1.5 feet and 3.2 feet for buildings 2 and 3. Also a side setback variance, a relief of 14.6 feet and 25 feet for buildings 2 and 3 respectively. The applicant is seeking relief from the freestanding parking structures and surface parking lots shall not be built adjacent to the river or any public pathway easement to provide parking adjacent to the Hudson River. And that is it, correct? I'm not missing a page? Oh, no, there's
You're
more.
missing one.
I forgot my other page, sorry. I thought there was more, sorry, guys. Also, the applicant is seeking relief from buildings with 4 or more floors, having a step back of at least 10 feet on each floor above the 3rd floor on the riverside to mitigate the visual impact of buildings from the river. And the required building frontage is 80% minimum, 100% maximum. A relief of 35.2% is requested. Okay. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Noah Freiberg. I'm here on behalf of Penrose. We are the development partner with the Troy Housing Authority, so we're representing Penrose and the Troy Housing Authority tonight. We have our professionals who will introduce themselves. We have a presentation that we're going to cover lots of things. We were here in early June and there wasn't a full quorum, but the request was made to provide some history and context to this, to all these variances. And so we wanted to do that tonight to sort of step back a little bit, give you some more information. I'm going to cover some of this information here, and then Jen and Roger are going to get into the variances themselves. And, you know, if there's any questions, please feel free to, as we go here.
Thank you.
So just to introduce Penrose, again, my name is Noah. I'm a senior developer with Penrose. Penrose is a private multifamily developer. We're based in Philadelphia. We specialize in multifamily mixed use and mixed income development. We work across the country, and a large part of our business is public housing redevelopment. So this is one of our specialties, and we do a lot of this work. There's a map here with a lot of colors. I won't bore you with that, but we do development in over 20 states and growing, as well as some work in the islands as well. In its 50-year history, Penrose has developed over 27,000 units, over 350 developments. We are annually in the top 10 of the largest affordable housing developers in the country. And we have a lot of partners, including the Troy Housing Authority, that we do a lot of work with. So this is, sort of right up our alley of what we do here. So this is the complex for those that may not have seen it or be familiar. This is Taylor Apartments. These are a 1950 towers, 100% public housing. These properties are restricted by HUD, and the Housing Authority owns and manages these today. This is my mouse right here. So you have in the background here, there were 4 towers. You have Taylors 1 and 2. And then there are Taylor 3 and 4. Taylor 3 and 4 are actually the subject of the hearing here today. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, the city, as part of its master plan, had developed a plan for this waterfront area. It was a part of Realize Troy. And then within that master plan, the Housing Authority put out an RFP for the redevelopment of the Taylor Apartments, request for proposals from developers around the country to come up with a plan to, redevelop these properties that were really outmoded, and Taylor's 1 and 2 had been vacant since 2005. So they were just boarded up, just sitting there. Taylor's 3 and 4 have 100+ residents, as they do today. And I'll get into that a little bit later. I'm going to let Jen really talk about the architectural design and site plan, but part of the overall City of Troy plan was to not only redevelop the Taylor Apartments, but was the redevelopment of the bridge, which you can see here with the ramps. The plan here was to get rid of the ramps, to complete sort of square off the site and develop the site with sort of a full city block there. What you see here is the proposal that Penrose submitted to the Housing Authority and the city that we were selected for, again, with the plan that the bridge ramps would be removed, River Street would be completed, and we would have a full city block to work with here. That plan changed because after some additional investigation and some work by the city and DOT, it was determined that the retaining walls of the ramps themselves were structural in nature, and to remove them would be very cost prohibitive. And so through the design, we were told that that was no longer going to happen, and we had to reimagine the plan that we were going to create. And so what you see here, and again, I'm going to let Jen talk a little bit more about this, is this reimagined plan that we have gone through some seeker and some level of site plan for. And it sort of, hugs these bridge ramps and retaining walls that have to remain, that are not on our property, but that we now have to sort of work around. And you can see Taylor 1 up here is 141 units, 100% affordable housing. Taylor 2 is 308, is mixed income. But the key here is that the original RFP and the plan that we submitted in 2021 had to change. And so we had to modify our approach. And there was also changes to stormwater management, flood levels, all these things that we've had to adjust for, and has designed the plan that is before you tonight. So this is a little bit about the program of Taylor 2, which are the 2 buildings together combined, about 386,000 square feet, around 2,000 square feet of commercial, 150 parking stalls, 308 units. The majority of them are 80% or below AMI, workforce and affordable. And then there is middle income to market, which is 58 units. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So again, this is just the same aerial rendering that you saw on the title slide. This is the proposal that we submitted to the city that we've gone through seeker and site plan for, and I'll let Jen get into a little bit more about the design. So just a little bit about Taylor One. Again, 141 units, all affordable, 150,000 square feet. There are 2 commercial spaces in there. The Troy Housing Authority is going to have space in that building. And on the corner here, there is going to be a UPS store, which they are very excited about because there is not any packaging stores in the area. And so it will be a great, amenity to the downtown area. The project is currently under construction. It is about 70% complete. We are planning to be complete in November and start the lease up. The majority of these units will be occupied by the residents of Taylor 3 and 4. So we've been working with them, holding meetings, talking with the housing authority. So they are preparing to move over to Taylor 1 once this building is built. And Taylor's 3 and 4, the old Taylor's 3 and 4, will be completely vacant. And so those buildings will effectively become the boarded up vacant units that Taylor 1 were without, the ability to develop the project further. Just a high level timeline of phase 1 and 2 here. You can see at the beginning, fall of 20, the Housing Authority RFP. We were awarded, the project was demolished in the fall of 22, and construction started. Spring of 24, we started our entitlements. I'll get back to that in a little bit. We are about here in the life cycle of these 2 deals combined. We're just about to complete construction and, start leasing up the building with the folks from Taylor's 3 and 4. And then our goal is that hopefully, we can demolish this Taylor's 3 and 4, in the fall of next year, and close on our construction, close on our financing and start construction in early 26. And then construction would be about 2 years. Those dates for completion are a little off. It'll be about 2 years to complete these buildings, and then we'll lease up those as well. So just wanted to walk you through the entitlements process where we've been. So we started our first planning commission meeting in March of this year. We introduced the project and applied to all the SECRA relevant agencies. We came back in May where they designated us lead agency. And then in July this summer, they gave us a negative declaration. And also after lots of conversations with them, the city, lots of good work with the planning commission, they also, without us requesting, actually at the end of the meeting, they offered a resolution to the zoning board recommending approval of all the zoning variances that we're seeking here tonight. And then down below, we have gone through the SHPO process. We applied to them in the in the spring. We held a meeting with them in May. And then in August, they gave us a no effect determination letter, effectively saying that our building does not have an impact on the historic district. We are not in the historic district, we are adjacent to it. But since we did that process for Taylor 1, we were asked to do so again for Taylor 2. And so we went through that process and they gave us a no determination letter, no effect, excuse me. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jen to talk a little bit about some of the variances.
All right. Hi, I'm Jen Swatala with Datner Architects. And as Noah had mentioned, as part of the original RFP, we had envisioned that these bridges were going to be reconfigured and the ramp was going to be taken down, and we were going to be able to kind of build a little bit more of the site as we had planned. But as we sort of learned through the process, The ramps and the ramps, like while the ramps may be able to be reconfigured, the actual ramp structure, which is the retaining walls that I'm highlighting here, are not going to be able to be removed. They're also completely outside of our property line. So anything that you see in colored here is what's within our property line, except for what's underneath the bridge. There's also an easement there, so it complicates things a little bit. So we're not developing anything underneath the bridge. As Noah mentioned, the site 2, which is what we're calling is this building here, that's along Congress Street and River Street. This is a building that will provide a retail space at the corner. Again, what we're really trying to do is bring that urban edge from the northern part of Troy down to down through River Street along this building. And then there will be residential units, parking at the Front Street grade, and then a cellar level parking that enters in through Congress Street. Site 3 is located off of Division Street and River Street. This one will be all residential. There won't be any commercial space in this, but it's a similar program. They'll both appear as 6 stories from River Street and then 7 stories from Front Street. So with that, we'd like to go into each of the variances and the reasoning for these requests. So Roger, I don't know if you want to talk about the front side or.
Sure, I can talk about this. Good evening, Roger Keating from Labella Associates. I'm the civil site engineer on the project. What you see here is what we need to do for seeking relief for the front setbacks. And so we've highlighted in green to show where there's a permanent easement that runs through the property for utilities associated with New York State DOT. What you see in green is kind of the outline of the boundary of those, and the darker line that's towards like River Street, for instance, is the edge of our property. So just to kind of give you the point of reference there. So what we've done is we've pushed those buildings up towards the easements as close as possible while staying out of those permanent easements and also avoiding the utilities that are within them. So the easements are primarily for utilities. They do have also language in there that speaks to DOT being able to use the easements for access to the bridge for inspection or maintenance if needed. The key here is these are permanent easements. So this is these easements are not ones that are easily to be removed, and especially considering the infrastructure that's contained within them. With this being closest to the river, much of the drainage that runs through this area all comes down the hillside to the river, and that infrastructure basically bookends either side of the bridge before it goes to the Hudson. So what we're seeking relief here for is the front side setback, which in this instance, the code indicates that we need to be 0 to 10 feet. So within 10 feet of the property line. And as you can see, we're just outside of that here as it relates to our property line as well as the easement. And again, we pushed it as close to the easement as possible so that we can still try to maintain and be, in the intent of what the code is requiring, working with the limitations that we currently have on the property. Maybe. Yeah. Nope. Did I? Oh boy. Now we're going to go back. Here we go. Sorry about that. And then we have side setbacks. So with the side setback, similar situation that we were just talking about for the front along River Street here. With the side setbacks, we're using the bridge, Congress Street Bridge as that boundary. And as you can see here, we have these pinch points here where we're next to the bridge abutment. So we pushed the building as close as we could, up against those easements and where the utilities are located, to tuck those in as tight as we could. Our property line basically follows that bridge abutment. So So that's where we're seeking that additional relief along the sides here. Again, working with the constraints that we have as it relates to the permanent easements on the property. This variance here that we're requesting is as it relates to the parking adjacent to the river. So as we've been going through the planning process, we've been working closely with planning to revise the site plan. As we were going through that process, there's a lot of discussion about how we could reduce parking as much as we possibly can. We're in a great location for utilizing public transportation, especially considering some of the improvements that are forthcoming with the Congress Street Bridge project, with bus stops also being added in the vicinity of the project. We work closely with the planning department to look at ways that we could create additional green space along Front Street. And as we looked at the project, as we were going through planning, the adjacency comment as it related to being parking adjacent to the river, we really felt that we're somewhat separated from the river. We have Front Street, the right of way of the road right there in front of us. But as we worked through with planning, I think what we were able to do was pull some of that parking further away from that. And if our rendering is in here, do you remember what slide the rendering is in? I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to find it really quick. Oh, there it is. Maybe this is really touchy. Sorry. Okay. So as you can see here, where we're looking to try to pull that parking away, we're creating more green space away from Front Street, trying to, create some additional separation. We'll have access still behind the buildings, but, really trying to pull the parking away. And as it exists today, there's parking for the towers for 3 and 4 currently. That's parked right along Front Street. So it's not out of character with what's there today, but we look to improve it. And I think we came a long way as it related to where the parking lives on the site from where we were before, when we were before this board last. And I think the next one is yours. So I'll go there.
All right, for the next variance, the 10-foot step back variance from the waterfront, the way that we cited the buildings, and I'll use the model in a second, but the way that we cited the buildings with a primary facade along River Street, we feel that we're actually meeting the intent of this. Also, our buildings are actually step back. So our primary facade along Front Street is 64 feet. So that's those facades here, right? And then the length of our facade is faced along River Street. We are also set back quite a bit, which you can see on this diagram, from the actual mean high water mark and the property line. So for example, again, our primary massing is, I think it's 150 feet and then 210 feet on this building. So, trying to meet the intent of preserving the view shed from the water, we feel like we're doing that with the way that we're massing our buildings, which is why we're requesting this variance. Also, if we were to do a 10-foot step back, where does that 10-foot step back occur? Does that occur on the primary facade? Does that occur on all faces? There's some ambiguity that we feel that this best represents that portion of the zoning code. And then finally, we're seeking relief just for Site 3, which is this building here, the southern site here, and we're seeking a building frontage along Division Street. And the reason we're seeking that is because we cannot, because of an existing sewer easement, which you can see in green here, that's running completely through our site. And I believe this is a city sewer easement. Sorry, the county trunk main. So we cannot build anything over it. We can't plant any huge trees over it, which then pushes our primary facade along Division Street further back, which is why we are requesting that variance as well. And with that, finally here you can see the aerial rendering that Noah showed before. This does actually show the ramps reconfigured, but it still shows the retaining walls of the ramps. So, you know, we have no control over the timeline of that reconfiguration of the bridge and the ramps. You know, we hope it happens. But as of now, we are planning our project as is, as the site occurs today. And that's it.
All right. Anyone else want to start with questions? I've got a list, but I'd give everyone there's an
Go for
opportunity to
it.
go first. Okay. I'm gonna start with DOT easements. Who wants to take those?
DOT easements.
Our favorite. What utilities are in those easements?
There's a variety of them. We have some water up near River Street. There's electric, there's fiber optic, and there's drainage in there as well. And there might be a little bit of sewer just touching the edge of the one, but for the most part, it's drainage, electric.
Talking about like stormwater pipes.
Yes, they're the big drainage pipes that come down both sides.
Which ones actually run along River and Division? Do you know which utilities run along?
Hold on a second. Let me get back over here. Okay, so your question regarding Division Street?
Sorry, well, yeah, well, River
okay.
Street.
Oh, River
North,
Street.
south.
Well, there's
North, south.
there's very little running in River Street because there's a bridge. Obviously the ramps that go up. So what happens is they run along the side of the bridge ramps along our property or within our property, and then they curl around and go down into the trunk lines and everything that are along Front Street. So you know, so there's utilities running through here, and then they curl around.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So much, if I go back to the green ones, or if I can get there. So essentially, those easement, they contained within the easements are a variety of utility. Primarily drainage, though. There's a lot, that's the big piece of infrastructure that runs down both sides as it goes towards the center.
Primarily drainage.
Primarily drainage.
Are any of those utilities being impacted as part of the Route 2 project that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, as I was saying, is these lines as it comes down towards the river, these are the really big lines that are coming through and collecting drainage before it gets down to the river.
Mhm.
So relocating them is probably pretty difficult from a size perspective. Also, there's some, like I said, fiber optic lines and things like that, communications that are running through there as well.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern with this, this variance is the intent of the zoning, especially since we're in a downtown district. The city with this major reconstruction project is now trying to connect River Street through and have a continuous street frontage. Is you're now set back and also have an elevation difference. Have you had the conversations with DOT? You know, is there a way for us to connect the building to the street frontage at, you know, the grade of the street while still satisfying their easement or their requirement? Have you had those conversations with DOT to try and mitigate that?
For, you mean connecting vehicle? I'm sorry. You mean connecting the vehicle traffic from River to the?
I want someone, if someone parks along River just before what is currently the ramp, the intent of this was that they could walk straight to a storefront entrance, and now they're having to walk down and around.
So our entrances to the building are in the corners where it is much flatter. So if somebody was to walk over to that, you know, park on Congress Street and then walk across the street at the crosswalk, you can walk right into the building. Yes. Okay, here we go. So our entrances are right here, for instance, at Congress in River, and that's where it's much flatter. It's when you get past that point, then the grade begins to go back up because they're not removing the bridge in its entirety. It sounds like they're trying to lower the grade some, but it doesn't sound like that's gonna go completely away. So it's still gonna climb up and then climb back down. So in theory, that's not in theory, it's much higher if you're out there standing there, you know, from the side. But at the bookends where we're near the intersections, that's much lower. And we're kind of all at grade at those intersections. So it's gonna be very pedestrian friendly for where, you know, people are coming and going in and out of the buildings along the main road. So that part, they won't necessarily have to, they won't have to walk all the way around the building to get down, but it is an important feature to be able to get people from River Street, especially if you're coming over the bridge, to be able to allow people to come back and around and then go down to the water.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think some of the original renderings of this project, I understand it's changed and, you know, things progress. Again, was to have those buildings kind of, the building itself and its frontage kind of step up with the walkway. And that's my primary concern is you're still kind of creating this isolated gap that still exists with, you know, it's currently there with Taylor 3 and 4.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak directly, like you had asked
Yeah.
the questions, directly to your question about conversations with DOT. We've talked about this a little bit at the June meeting. We have had conversations with DOT on this property because there are some minor easements and a tiny little parcel that we're working on that are over here that they're working on disposing of because they're tiny little isolated sites that are not these easements. But these easements themselves, it's not just the utilities that are running through them. They are recorded easements on title that we cannot, you know, build on, and DOT has made no has given no indication that they are interested in moving the utilities or giving up those easements at any point. So even if those easements were gone, there's no indication that they would actually remove the easements themselves that are there. And without those easements being removed, the state and all of our financing parties would not give us financing to build over those easements because they run with the land prior to this building being built. So the utilities are the main thing, but the easement that the DOT has over that site is really what doesn't allow us to push it into those regions that, you know, these highlighted green regions here. If that sort of answers a little bit more directly the
And I
question.
understand, yeah, right away with DOT is a bear and a half.
And Lindsay, there is one other thing that I am excited about because I know where you're going as it relates to the pedestrian interactivity, you know,
Mhm.
especially from the intersection perspective. And the one thing that we've been working with Creighton Manning on is on this side here. So right about in this area here, we're able to, oh gosh, that thing is really sensitive. So sorry. Right about there, we're able to get another walkway piece that's going to be able to connect over to that. So instead of the walk having to go completely this length of the building, we're hoping we're going to be able to get a connection point up so it's closer to the intersection. So like we had hoped years ago was it'd be really closer to that intersection, but now instead of having to go all the way down to the end, we're going to be able to move that closer, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, my primary concern is like, you know, we're trying to create this building frontage in downtown. And right now you kind of have this isolated nature. You don't by chance have any renderings of like what it would look like, you know, down River Street?
We're working on
You know?
it. We'll have them for planning, but the idea is like, because we're as tight as we can be up to that easement. Luckily, we don't have to worry about offsets from any pipes in there, which is good because that would have pushed us further. But we are also trying to hold Congress Street edge and Division Street edge as well, because we do think it's really important. I will note that Taylor 1 is also set back from the property because of there was that same sort of condition of the bridge coming up and all of that. So unfortunately, it's not what we had planned for, but we're holding the edge as much as possible. And that's also why we're proposing the retail in this corner so that we can kind of like keep that core like urban edge as you're passing through this.
Okay. What is your timeline? Like, where are you at with the planning board and what's your like kind of expected timeline going through this process?
So we've been before planning a few times.
Yep.
Last meeting, we had our neg deck for seeker. And so we're anticipating going back to planning after we're done here to, finalize our site plan review and approval process. So that may be another meeting or two, depending on the feedback we get with some changes that have happened over there. So we'll be reintroducing that project to the new board
Okay.
next time in.
But you have not been in front of the new planning board at this point, or you have?
No, we have not. They just
Okay.
had a meeting this month, but we're scheduled to be on, I believe, this month.
Yeah, this month.
I think,
Yeah,
I
we-
believe,
2 weeks.
I believe it's this month, yeah.
All right. Before I launch into the rest of my list, any other questions? Anyone else want to take over?
Quick question.
Don't want to go that way. There you go. Back to that.
Let's go back to the ramps, the reconfiguration of the ramps. Has the ramp design, structure, plot plan, location, whatever you want to call it, been finalized by DOT?
No, the plans have not been finalized. This project's been in the works for a number of years. They're currently have a consultant working on the designs with the reconfiguration, but the designs are not finalized on their end yet.
Would it make sense to have the finalized version of the ramps before you do whatever it is you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, so I just want to highlight again, or just point out that the ramps themselves are sort of, you can see this roadway here. And the connection to River Street is here. The intention is to reconnect River Street here. But two things just to highlight again. One, that's outside of our property line. We don't control that. And so whatever the intention is or the plan is going to be outside of what we can do on our site. And again, we're already minimized a little bit by the DOT easements. And the second thing I wanted to highlight to your question, hopefully, is that the retaining walls themselves, so the ramps, the road, I'm sorry, it is very sensitive. The ramps are coming out, but those retaining walls, those arches are going to remain. So the plan that Roger was talking about with Creighton Manning about sort of what happens in this gray area off our property is still being worked out. But no matter what that plan ends up being or what's created, the ramps themselves are going to stay. The retaining walls, excuse me, the retaining walls are going to stay. And I think it's worth that also mentioning that even if those did come out, those easements are still there, and DOT hasn't referenced removing them at all. So between the easements and the retaining walls that aren't coming out, the ramp plan and how the city is going to, or how DOT might rework that bridge is sort of outside of what we can do.
But does that impact what you're proposing to do?
No, I think this, and I'll let Jen speak to this also, but the plan that was designed is really is a great plan because it factors in if the ramps and the bridge stay as is, or if the plan that's currently proposed comes into place. It gets as close as possible. It addresses River Street. It's built for the reconnection. But if it stays as is, you have the same design and the same great plan. Do you want to add that?
And just for clarification, this will always be the condition regardless of the way that DOT reconfigures the bridge because of the way that our property line is. So you can see that our property line is here.
Where?
You see the dark black line?
No, I'm sorry.
The along the bridge, the edge of the green
Yes,
is their property
Yeah.
line.
got it.
The inside of the
Yeah.
green, that whole green space is the easement.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is our property. And just to note that there is also an easement underneath the bridge. We cannot develop anywhere under there either. So it's completely out of our property. So regardless what they do, that this condition is what we are left with.
Okay.
And also timeline in terms of DOT and how fast things get done.
Other questions?
You know, going back to like what we were talking about before, the other fellow, like, does this set some sort of precedent for other stuff coming up along the river?
Well, speak in your mic. Make sure
Oh,
you're.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I'm just wondering if this sets up anything negative as a precedent for future developments along the river that I know that are out there. I don't know the answer to that, so I'm just.
I'll
Maybe
speak
we
for
don't.
my opinion of, I think
Yes.
that there are certain of these variances that potentially could set a precedence and, you know, other applicants can refer back to. You know, these front setbacks in particular are very, and these side setbacks are very unique to the site, and that is related to a DOT easements.
Yeah, I would say the uniqueness of the site is one of the things that sets it apart probably from a lot of other things that you see in this zone. There's not very many pieces of property that are surrounded by roads on all four sides and have a
And
New York State DOT right away running through the middle of it. And so when you start to look at the variance requests, we have road frontage pretty much on every side. So there's unique setback scenarios that are happening all around us, and then being directly adjacent to the river also creates a very different situation. I think as we were going through planning and we heard the resolution coming back to the ZBA about, you know, that they're, you know, in favor of the variances after what we've done with the rework of the site plan, kind of boiled back down to that, in that if you listen to their discussion, it's a lot of, well, it's a tough site. There's a lot of property. There's a lot of these constraints that are surrounding us. And I think that uniqueness maybe sets us apart a little bit from some of the other properties in the district. So.
Rick?
From a legal perspective, the variances that are less site-specific would have more precedential value. I mean, anything you do has precedential value, but in particular, the story setback, which the applicant is seeking to waive, and the parking
So there's other
variances.
things that's, okay.
So those are probably more precedential.
Okay.
Related to said parking. Do you happen to have an interior site plan, like where you show the parking underneath the building?
Don't know if we,
Have that in this presentation.
I don't have that, but
You don't have it in this presentation.
Maybe you can answer the question, but I have in my mind, and I don't have it printed out in front of me either
Yep.
way. Two concerns. One, as far as the number of parking, I recall in looking at the site plan that you are not doing, you know, ground floor parking underneath the entirety of the structure.
so.
Can you explain why?
Yep, so we are doing ground floor parking underneath the structure where, and we've brought more back into the building. So at first, it was a much larger band that we were talking about as it related to where the ground floor parking would be pulled in a little bit. And that was happening primarily at those intersections because of how close we are to the building or to the roadway. And there's a lot of topography that goes from the top of the, you know, from River Street down to Front, where we're in tight to the intersection there and where the buildings are close. That's where we stepped that excavation back so that we didn't have as much excavation right next to the roadway, and the utilities and everything that are there. I think it's about a 17-foot cut in some of those spots, and you'd be just a few feet off to the side. And so there was some of that was into consideration near those intersections.
You gave a cross section to the city planning. the city.
Yep, and we did. We provided that to city planning as well, to kind of show where some of those pinch points were as it related to like the utilities and things like that. But when we went through that exercise, the one thing that we were able to do was to realize that we could bring a little bit more of this parking in, which was one of the things that we were able to help with the green space separation along the Front Street. Because now, as you can see, the parking is kind of, on the building to the right, it's only on the inside edge now facing the building. And on this side, we don't have that parking that's down in front right next to the road anymore. So now those are set back. And so now we have our access lane there, but then the parking's on the other side of the access lane. So just trying to get that parking, further and further away from the river.
Okay. Sticking on this slide.
Okay. Sorry.
Quick question, roughly is there more parking located underneath the structure than exterior for both of these, like 2/3 to 1/3?
Oh,
roughly?
there's much more in the building and out
Okay.
there. I don't know what that ratio is, but there's more inside than there is out now.
Okay.
And outside the building, sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
it's fine.
outside the building, we also are challenged with the EV charging. We're required to put EV charging in, and it's in the zoning code as well. But the fire department does not want EV charging inside the parking structure. So we need to move that outside the structure to satisfy the fire department. So we get a little bit of a weird scenario there too, as to where we can locate parking, because some of that they just don't want inside the structure.
We should probably just look at that exemption generally in our zoning. That makes sense. Stephen, do you mind if I? ask
No,
him
go
a
right
follow-up?
ahead. No rush.
Sorry. There is the intent, the city has expressed the intent to, at some point, close Front Street to motor vehicles and restrict it to bicycle and pedestrian access to have a riverfront trail. How will access to the site work? And that's part of the reason why I kind of pushed this parking variance issue. How is access to the site going to work when that happens?
Yeah, so
If and when, we're
if-
just gonna
if-
say when that happens.
when it happens. So Lindsay, it's a great comment. And so first and foremost, we worked with EMS, right? Fire department, how they want to access this building and such. So when Front Street happens, there'll be the ability to still have on Front Street to have emergency vehicles get onto Front Street. So from an emergency vehicle perspective, they will still have access there. When Front Street is closed, that will be for emergency. That will be for emergency. We have. It's so bad with this mouse, I'm sorry. But on the left-hand side, right near front, there's an access to the garage, which also has a pass-through, which could get you to the surface lot.
Okay,
You follow?
Yep.
And so you can drive around the inside of both of these buildings and still get back out to the other end.
is this parking restricted to residents? Is this gonna be accessible to guests or, those that are patronizing commercial centers?
It's a management question, so, but typically,
Yeah.
guests.
Yeah, it'll be
residents-
for residents and guests. The commercial up at the top, there's on-street parking. That's part of the, traffic reporting that Roger can speak about. But yeah, primarily for residents and guests because of the ratio of parking spaces and units.
Am I understanding that there's underground parking? Is that what you're?
It's underneath the building, yes. So, we're not
Well,
it's quasi
Not
underground, yeah,
underground when you're on Front Street.
right.
What is the ratio to
Underground.
parking?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, what's inside versus what's out. But there's more parking in the building than there is outside the building.
And what is the ratio for, okay, so 2 is to the left and 3 is to the right?
Yes.
Phase two,
Yeah.
okay. So for each one of those number of units per, how much parking are you having per unit? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, so we've gone through a process with planning. Right now, we're at about a 0.3 ratio, so 1.3 parking spaces for every unit. And that's counting for primarily just what's on the site. There is also on-street parking that's in the adjacent areas along Congress Street, as well as the other side of Division as well.
So with that ratio, is the expectation that most people don't have cars?
A lot of people that'll be living here won't have cars, and they'll have access to a great public transportation network that's right there.
Stephen?
At the last time we spoke, I've raised some questions about parking. And I'd like to go back and piggyback on your comments. If we take the current building that's still standing, that has what, 125 apartments in it? With approximately 88 parking spots.
Yep.
So that would be about 0.70 parking spaces per apartment.
Correct.
If we take your proposed project, the number of apartment units increases from the current 125 to a proposed 308. That's not quite, but close to 2.5 times the number of units. Agreed?
Agreed.
But you're proposing 83 parking spots. You haven't increased the parking, but you've increased the number of units from 125 to 308. I guess my concern is parking's an issue. In your presentation, you talked about how many units of the 308 would be deemed middle income units. I didn't catch that number.
Jen just brought it up on the screen here. So 58 of the 308 are considered middle income. And there are, I didn't follow completely, but I thought that I heard that you mentioned that the amount of parking stayed the same. I just wanted to clarify that there's 150 parking spaces now
For the 308?
for the 308.
When you say now, I'm sorry,
Oh,
would
I'm
you
sorry.
clarify that?
I didn't mean to say now, not presently, but the proposed plan.
Is for 150 parking spaces for 308 units? Because I just heard someone say it was 0.3 spaces.
Yeah.
per unit.
I think there's,
Sorry, 1 second.
What I said is you currently have a building that you're going to take down. And in that building, you've got 125 you have 125 apartments with 88 parking spaces to service the 125 apartments. Is that right?
it sounds about right. Yes.
Sounds about. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have 125 apartment units with approximately 88 parking spaces, you're increasing your units from 125 to 308. But the numbers that I saw reflected 83 parking spaces to service 308 units. Am I incorrect?
I don't believe it's 83.
What's the number?
I'll have to, we'll find the number for you. Yeah.
Okay,
But,
fair enough.
but so the parking lot that's there today is vastly underutilized. It's not utilized to the same degree.
No, but if you have a certain number of quote, middle income apartments out of the approximate 308 apartments, I think it's a safe bet to assume everybody's gonna have at least one car if they're middle income, if not perhaps two cars.
So you did include, sorry, just to go along this point, you did include in your latest application package, it's the transportation. It's not the traffic impact analysis,
TDMP.
TDMP, thank you, traffic management plan. So within this zone, there's no parking requirement, correct?
There is no parking requirement.
Right. So we need to make sure that we're sticking to our issue and we can kind of factor that in and consider these things, but specifically what's in front of us is the allowing this surface parking lot adjacent to Front Street and the Hudson River. So we just need to make sure like we can ask a lot of these questions, and I think it's behooves us to review the travel demand management plan to make sure that the parking that's and what they're asking for is needed and required and, you know, large or big or small enough, but I just want to make sure we're specific with.
What I
exactly
see
what's
in
being
downtown
requested.
Troy is a need for more parking, not less.
This, I understand where you're coming from. Specifically, however, the code does not have a minimum number of parking spaces in this zone. So in other words, they could have zero. As far as the zoning variance would be concerned. And the issue with respect to parking as for zoning pertains to whether or not they can even have a parking lot that close to the river.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to clarify that. That's all.
I just wanted to, I mean, part of the reason we have this outdoor parking is to try to address, you know, even though there's no parking required, we do recognize that there is some parking needed. And so having that out there is to try to address some of that. And the reason we can't put more inside the building is because then we would have to increase the number of stories of the building, and then the whole building type changes to become an infeasible, fully non-combustible building. And so if we have more underground parking or raise the stories of the building, we're infeasible financially. And so the alternative is to have some of this outdoor parking to provide some
I got
parking
that, but
resource.
when you talk about the financial feasibility, are you talking about the cost or the subscription to the limited partnerships that the banks are going to do to fund this? Or are you talking about the cost of construction? and the
Yeah,
Return on
yes.
equity?
No, I wouldn't say it's that down that deep into the partnership level when the size of the building right now is at its maximum capacity where it can have other types of construction and structure. And I can let Jen speak to that. If we went to another story, the entire building would have to be concrete or steel. And at that point, the cost of construction and the resources available from the state for subsidy and to provide for affordable housing are not at that level. We wouldn't be able to build the building. And that's why, from a cost of construction standpoint. And so that's why there is a little bit of outdoor parking here.
All right, but let's go back to what was mentioned. How many middle income units out of the approximate 300 units do you anticipate? A number was thrown out and I didn't catch it.
It's, sorry, there's a delay. So at the bottom there, I don't know.
I can't see that. I
It's
was
a
not-
58.
58.
Yeah.
And out of the 308s, 125 affordable, 125 workforce, and then 58 middle income.
Okay, so 125 would be workforce and 58 would be middle income.
And if I may, so during the planning board review of the project as it relates to parking, obviously it's an important topic. And one of the things that we've done as part of the plan was also look at bank parking options on the site so that we if we don't build them right now, but if the demand came up, we could add parking in later.
What do you mean by bank
So
parking?
what they do with bank parking is they reserve spaces that you could build if, say you had a commercial tenant that was different or something that would require you to have extra parking spaces. You can bank it into the design so that you can have it as green space, but you could back it out later if you needed to. And so it's just one of the strategies that we were working with the planning board on because I understand the need for parking and what's being said, but planning was asking us to pull some of it back. So, so we're in this balance where we're trying to find that spot where we're satisfying the planning board's requests as well as our needs. We want a successful project and we feel what we've got will work.
I just wanted to clarify, since the question did come up, there are 150 spaces. The reason the ratio is reduced is because some of those spaces were, they're not restricted, but they were considered shared parking with Taylor One. Because of the reduced size of that site there, it was planned that there would be spaces for Taylor One in Taylor Two. So officially those spaces are shared parking, but there are 150 spaces here. And
But
as we,
the 150 spaces are shared by Taylor One and Taylor Two.
there are 150 spaces in Taylor Two.
Alone.
Of those 150, 40 are considered a shared parking resource for Taylor One.
Okay.
But there's also 44 parking stalls on Taylor One itself.
Yes. Right, so combined
Yeah,
there's,
but that's 44 spaces in Taylor One that has 125 units.
and those are 100% affordable, and the majority of them are very low income. And so back to the previous conversation, the ratio of that would be much lower. Typically less than 0.5 is our historical average on our 100% subsidized properties.
Okay.
I had another question on the building frontage. My understanding, interpretation, like even with the bridge, that is underneath the bridge is your property, correct? You just can't build anything there without DOT's permission.
Correct.
Certainly not gonna put a building
Yes.
there.
Yep.
So I had interpreted this 35%,
Oh, that's along Division Street,
That's only on Division Street.
only Division.
okay, again, well, how I've been interpreting this request is you've got the requirement is 80 to 100% of your entire property frontage, and that the relief requested was because the bridge was there.
No.
That's not the case.
No, so Division Street, you have a very neat property line on that edge where it goes all the way from River to the Hudson River. And so, as you can see, I can't put the building in the road. So it has a weird property line situation that takes place there. So that's where the relief is being sought.
And the easement. And the easement. So what we're the way that we see that is that the building frontage is our primary, what we call our front street, not what Front Street is. But so the way that we are determining our setbacks, which somewhat complicates things, is that Congress Street is Site 2's front setback or frontage street, your primary front street. River Street and Division Street is your primary front street for Taylor 2 or Taylor 3. River Street is the front side setback for both of them. And then Ferry Street or the bridge is the side setback. So if this wasn't such a strange lot, I think it would have been easier. So in terms of frontage, that's how we are determining that variance request. Exactly.
Okay.
And per zoning, they request that you determine those streets if you're a corner lot,
Yeah.
which this isn't. I don't, yeah.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Other questions from the board?
All right, this might be a juvenile question, but I'm gonna throw it out there. It seems like you're like busting at the seams. Why couldn't you just make everything a little bit smaller? So that you would be meeting all the requirements that are already in place. Does that make sense?
We wouldn't, because if, for example, like with the side setback and all of the other setback requirements, we're actually trying to comply with zoning as much as we can, with the limitations of our site. So we would have come to you with essentially, if we wanted to tighten everything up, it would be what the buildings are today. And that's not the intent of the new zoning.
The variance request would be
Much larger,
Think
exactly.
different.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can you add additional parking under the bridge since you own that?
No. No.
Sorry, what's the question? Do we own it?
Yeah, so if we can put parking underneath this bridge, it's,
It jumps.
yes.
And it's currently a very well-used and appreciated basketball court.
Yeah.
For, are you planning on making any improvements to said basketball court?
No, not current. Yeah. Yeah.
Should I just keep my mouth shut
Yeah.
right now?
But also we have 4 piers for the bridge here as well that would completely
Stop. Okay.
stop from being able to park there.
Okay.
One more question. You're seeking, according to this, if I'm reading it right, the applicant is seeking relief from, quote, buildings with 4 or more floors shall have a step back of at least 10 feet on each floor above the 3rd floor on the riverside. What are you proposing if the setback is 10 feet? What are you asking for?
We are saying that we feel we meet the intent of the zoning code because number one, all of the site constraints, but if you look at this diagram here, again, our primary massing is along River Street. Our building faces along the water are really only 64 feet wide on each face. And as you can see, we're already set back at the minimum of 50 feet from the mean high water mark or the bulkhead line. And then the primary face of that building is 158 feet back. So what we're saying is that we're not negatively impacting the view from the water because we're already set so far back from the building.
Yeah, and
Or I'm sorry, from the water line.
I think the aerial really
Yeah.
does the best job of like our you know, in looking at the zoning code and talking about this, the purpose of the step back is to protect the view shed from the river. And I think this rendering really does a great job of expressing how our building appears, if you look at all the other properties along the line, to provide the greatest view shed protection of all the properties along the river. And as I mentioned, we had gotten the planning commission's a resolution recommending the approval of all the variances at tonight's meeting. It was actually this variance which started a little bit of conversation that all the planning commission members ended up, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not using their exact words, but that this building was unique to the riverfront, you know, like a modern uniqueness, and that it really started off the unrequested approval or recommendation to approve all these variances tonight. So, you know, we're trying to meet the intent of lots of constraints, the constraints of the site, the constraints of our financing. HUD is restricted this property. We have to put back put back the 125 HUD restricted units that are here. And so the design that we came up with, well, I didn't come up with it, but Jen and Roger and the great team that we have, we think really creates a beautiful redevelopment of these Troy towers that are going to come down. And so hopefully that you feel the same way.
You didn't answer my question.
Sure. I'm sorry. What was your question?
I've read your request for the variance. It has to be at least 10 feet, right? And my question was, what are you reducing it to?
Zero.
Zero
Yeah.
is the answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Setback from the,
Well, from the third floor and above.
oh, I understand now.
Correct,
Yes,
yes.
0.
0 feet.
I
Yes.
apologize for the confusion. Yeah.
Yes. We are not stepping back the building face anything. We're 0.
Okay.
No, and actually, Stephen, I think you bring up a good point for the future. I know this is referencing like kind of a vague and you're meeting into you arguing you meeting intent, we perhaps should frame this as a specific request. Like, can we, based on where it's coming in the code, that like it's a relief of 0 feet from this requirement? It's not phrased that way in our kind of
That's,
agenda minutes, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Other questions? We'll get into discussion after, but I wanted to see if there was any public comment before we do that. But any other questions for the applicant?
No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. We all did receive at least one letter from a member of the public. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak relating to this proposal and what's in front of us? Can't see behind.
Yeah, there's one coming.
Yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Russ Brooks. I did send comments to you for today's meeting. I have some issues with all the variance requests. First, the ones that regarding the setbacks. It's unfortunate this project has to be moving ahead before we really finalize what's going to happen with Congress and Ferry Street. I understand about DOT variances and easements, excuse me. But I used to own the property at 155 River Street, directly north of this project. And there was DOT land there, and I petitioned DOT to declare it surplus to their needs and forego their easements, and they agreed. I did this as an individual citizen. I would think that during the process of the bridge project, the Congress and Ferry Street project, that though that sort of approach could be considered. That said, it would really increase the cost of the Congress and Ferry Street Bridge project considerably, and to allow Penrose to build what they originally presented to the community and through many community and planning meetings of keeping more of a streetscape on River Street. I understand the cost, the implications of this. It's unfortunate that we can't get to a final resolution on what Congress and Ferry is going to be, so that they'll know for sure. My understanding is the last piers where the last structural steel that supports the bridge and the ramps is the end of it, and that at expense, the rest could be reclaimed, and then that property, although you're saying it's not your property, could become your property. I got the DOT to agree to sell me property that was theirs. The various requests that I'm more concerned about is the setback and the surface parking. I understand that there is no parking requirement in this zone, but there is a traffic and transportation management study plan that's required to be done, and that the results of that are supposed to influence what the parking recommendations are. You went through this on phase 1 and determined that there was a necessary, I think, 78 spots. And you were going to build 38 on the site, and then with 40 future sites to be available with phase 2. So the determination was that for a project that was wholly under the 50% of AMI, that there would be 0.55 parking spots per unit. That's because of 141 units, and there were going to be a total of 78 spots, 38 on the phase one site and 40 promised in phase two. Now we're going to 308 units, and the actual number percentage per unit goes down to 0.27 because you are banking total of like 17 or 15 parking spots for future use. So the 150 wasn't, and I haven't counted what's in your latest. I'm looking at what you submitted in June, which was the last thing that I saw. The other variance request is for the setbacks, relief from the setbacks. I think trying to construe the curved building as a setback is going to be problematic in setting precedent. There's a lot of development being planned. It's in talking right now and in the works for south of this site. The salt pile is going to get moved. There's a lot of interest in developing that. The next person may come in and say, I want a U-shaped building that faces the river, and I consider the back of the U far enough away that that's the setback. A setback is the setback from the facade. You have a HUD requirement in this phase to have 125 units. You're looking for 308 units. Just reduce it, put the setbacks in that are part of our code. As required above the third floor, you'll have a few less units, a number of less units, and it'll ease the requirement for parking. You know, the city developed zoning codes to determine what it's going to be in the future, what it's going to look like. We just adopted a new zoning code with some of these requirements last April, April 2023. I think we should not be granting these type of variances that would potentially allow every project that goes up on the river to not have setbacks. It's like a monstrous big wall, curved, U-shaped, straight on, it just doesn't matter. That became part of Recode Troy for a reason. I think we should honor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Anyone else? Randy's just you right there. This is the problem with sitting in the middle. I can't see if anyone else is back there. All right. Anyone joining virtually that would like to provide comments related to this project? Unmute, chat, raise your virtual hand. Give it a minute. I always fumble for that little unmute button.
I don't see anyone. I don't think there's anyone on Zoom because Sean is.
Oh, is that all you guys?
Oh,
Sean is at least starred.
Sean's one of us.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are 3 people on there right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
2 is from here and then 2 is from that. So.
Okay. All right. I don't sit and wait for that. So discussion among the board, where I'm currently at, recognizing that this project has the potential to set some precedents. Where I'm at is I would like to request some additional information from the applicant, and also knowing that we've got 2 members of our board and this is a big project, just give you guys a little bit more time to review the materials. And but really I want to make sure that we're, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, knowing what could potentially be coming on Troy's riverfront. That's where I'm at. Any other thoughts, questions want to discuss?
No, any questions I had, I've raised.
Okay.
I think having extra time to review this as a person that's been here one day would be helpful. Because it seems like this has been going on for a long time, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to make a motion to table this until next month, and then once we're done with that, I'm gonna follow up with some requests of you all. That's okay to do, right? I don't like close it by making that motion. Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna make the motion to table this until next month.
I would second that motion to table,
All in
And the
fa-
purpose is to allow new members more time.
to allow the two new members who just came on time to come up to speed, review the material.
And for the applicant to provide us some additional material.
Okay.
That I'm going to request. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Sorry to bring you back another month. Specifically, I completely understand you've got a DOT easement. I would completely understand why they're not gonna let you place your building there. Again, I am just concerned about that separation of street frontage. To that end, I'd like two things, well, I guess three things. If you can prepare for next meeting. Can you please reach out to DOT and get their response of what if we built some sort of pedestrian walkway between our building adjacent to the street on top of this easement and see how they respond?
No, we can respond.
We are.
We are
You-
building.
We can do that and we.
We can do that
Okay.
and we are, yeah.
Okay,
So-
to that end, then maybe this is the next request, is I am, despite being an engineer and planner, I am struggling visualizing if I'm standing at the intersection of Congress and River, looking towards where those current ramps are, what that is gonna look like, and the same thing in reverse. Because again, right now you kind of see this kind of alley. So if you guys can do some sort of visualization or rendering so that we can really illustrate what that's gonna look like. My other request is to, again, to the step back, again, big risk of precedence for us. Can you show and provide us some illustration? If we don't grant you this variance, what is that gonna look like and how is this gonna impact your proposal?
What
Yeah.
about a view from the river of the proposal?
That's what I'm saying, like this rendering, like with the step backs and
No,
like,
I was saying, you can
Go
have
ahead.
both with and as it is currently, because that is an aerial view. I mean, I don't know what this would look like from the,
oh, you're talking like street view from,
from the river.
like
We'll-
from Front Street, what this.
We'll provide
Yeah,
quite a few different renderings.
perfect. Yeah, again, we just need to be able to like see what the kind of differences are. Yeah. Yeah,
Because I think your question was about what the ramp area is going to look like. Is that,
I want to know what it's gonna look like between River Street and their building. Not the ramps. The
Okay,
ramps,
all
I
right.
completely understand the retaining wall and whatever. and-
right, and because we actually have a DRI grant that will help to beautify that area. We need to actually get the, we need to go out and get a consultant, landscaping consultant to make a rendering and design for that area.
You're talking about where the space that is gonna be on top of the ramps
Yes.
that is left over.
Yes,
You and I should talk afterwards.
yeah.
Really, I understand that
Okay,
is part of.
I
the
thought that
Congress
was your
Ferry
question,
project.
so I just
No,
wanted to be
no, no,
clear
no,
on
no,
that.
no.
Yeah, all right.
No, that's part of the Congress Ferry Street project, which there's a public meeting next Wednesday in a week. So we should have some more information on what at least what they've narrowed the alternatives down to the intersection itself. My understanding is it's not really changing much. So those renderings, again, looking at, really again, focused on this front side setback, is my biggest concern. Since I'm making requests, anyone else? Let's get them out now.
No, the renderings for me, are what I need. I need to see the visual.
Okay. I'm hoping that's it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone want to make a motion to end our meeting?
I'd like to make a motion that we finish the meeting up and that we adjourn if there's no additional business.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Good job, young lady. Do it well.